fine.
Well, the last time we left that the image or the theme of the Godfather, that you wanted to create a different image of the Godfather, not the one Godfather that we see in Puzo.
I must say, my objective was not to replace any negative stereotype with another. My objective was, and I'm pleased to see in some quarters where it's written, to blow it up, to destroy it as the dominant stereotype. The way to do that, at least in my case, the only gifts I had is my writing, my imagination. Why cannot we put forth as romantic a figure as Don Corleone? Why can't we put forward, say, a reformed Don who is a sort of philosopher-king, who his time has passed, which I think we all can envision, but perhaps not in our own lifetimes, because he keeps regenerating.
In fact, the Godfather originally is a religious ceremony that when a child is born, there is a Godfather who takes care of the child.
It's a surrogate father.
The surrogate father.
Exactly.
So originally it is a positive sort of image. It is an image.
Exactly.
And it's just that here in USA it has become a stigmatized sort of image. But obviously we have to change these.
I appreciate your saying that. I think it is up to us to do that. I mean, you know, Italian Americans and Italian, who's going to do it? I mean, as far as I can see, other groups just profit by it, really.
Even some Italian Americans,
well,
like Puzo
yes, exactly. Well, he presented it, you know.
Basically, there is nothing wrong. Puzo is making money out of it. The people like to read this kind of stuff. There is an agenda, as Professor Viscusi was saying. If people like to read that kind of reading, they should, you know, nobody should criticize. This is a market, and only that as Italian Americans we have to change, because it has one negative characteristics which damages the whole fiber of Italian American
you know, I've been
prosperity.
thinking about this, and of late. Why should anyone in your audience go out and buy one of my books rather than The Godfather? I think it's a legitimate, by Puzo's book. In other words, if I say yes, we have to support, Italian Americans, Italians have to support their own people. They have to pay. We have to pay for our culture. And they have to, so the question is, well, why should I buy that instead of that? So what's the answer? If you're saying, well, it's okay to do that, and it's just as okay to do this, why should we do that and not this? So
no, the intent was not specifically that. No, the question is we should read these because these are morally grounded sort of characters, not the Godfather, the delinquent, and the criminal. Obviously, it is in the market because it sells, but we want to show a counter figure which is more in traditional, in keeping with our personalities, with our traditions, and so therefore I would urge Italian Americans, even American in general, to read a story like Conversation with Johnny, because you come out with something else which is not stereotypical.
Thank you.
Okay, we have discussed now too, in the previous program, we discussed about the subject of love, love affair, and which was a stereotypical, which you also tried to blow that image of the stereotypical Latin lover into a more humanized person who suffers and tries to discover what is wrong with his life. Why is he being labeled lover? Especially in one of the story, the lefty says, "You are my button boy,
my button man."
Button man." In other words, you exist only for the love, or the producing of love. Now, the other subject is the Godfather. These are two images that are, in a way, detrimental to the Italian Americans. You have one story which I believe it comes out beautiful and you predict something. It goes above the literary meaning of the story and goes beyond. And that is the story in the current, what is it? Sorry. The Mediterranean runs through Brooklyn. In here, there is one story that says The Two Italian. There is this character, Angelo, which is a good person, hard-working man, studios, he goes to medical school. And then there is Santo, who is a gangster, becomes a gangster, very difficult child, grows up and commits crimes. And one day, what happened? They get together.
Well, one day what happens is there is a mugging. The gangster Santo accosts Angelo, and the tables are turned. Angelo kills his mugger. And I was very impressed, frankly, that you made that connection between that and then the later, because one book is 18 years between. Yeah. And I'd like to say this about the reconciling the Godfather idea with the love affair. In the last program, we talked about the influence of the women on my life in the original community. I believe that most Italian Americans would agree with me that in each one of us, we have the understanding, at least, or capability of both. That is, of, how could I say, the cultural, poetic, and also the criminal. I mean, we understand it very well. But at the same time, also about the women. In the conversation with Johnny, when I was writing it, I felt that in me, there was a war between two rather simplistic elements. One was the romantic lover, the nice, sweet Neapolitan. And on the other hand, there was the aggressive, how could I say, not so sweet, say Sicilian, because I have both. Mm-hmm. And when you have both, you understand what I'm talking about. And so, but each one of us has all of that. So I was able to do the both sides.
Right.
That's how that happened. So that's a reconciliation.
But the image of the Godfather and the Latin lover are two stereotypical elements or characteristics that people identify us with.
Correct.
In the moment you introduce yourself and you introduce with a name which ends in vowels, they say, "Oh, you are Godfather."
Yes, exactly.
Your Godfather.
Yes.
So, and that is an image that the Italian Americans unfortunately have. Obviously, every individual has those two elements of good and bad. I could kill somebody in any situation, just as anybody else. Right. And that is, if we're going to go back to the story of the two Italians, where you said it, the good person ends up killing the bad person. And I think it has a beautiful image there when Angelo kills and realizes that Philo is Italian or whatever, and he puts the hand up to the sky and the eyes and says, "Why?" And I think this is a beautiful recurrence to the biblical reference to the biblical of Cain and Abel, and Abel who. The bad brother kills the good brother, and that is a tragedy in the Bible. But here is the reverse. The good person kills the bad, and I believe it has an extra meaning here, which I would like to develop here. Maybe it's only my interpretation.
Sure.
The good person kills the bad person, meaning that it is the good Italian Americans